Hey, what's up you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you my review of The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which is a movie that came out back in 2003 and starred Sean Connery, as well as, can't pronounce Kevin Nemo's name, but as well as Shane West. Shane West is an actor I've seen a lot more of now. We'll talk about that in a second though. But also Peter Wilson as Mina Harker, Tony Curran as Rodney Skinner, the Invisible Man, Stuart Townsend, and Jesse Fleming, as well as others. There's Richard Roxburgh as well. But anyway, this is a review that I was definitely going to do at some point. If you guys go back and watch my review of the Van Helsing movie with Hugh Jackman, you can kind of compare my thoughts on that movie to this one, because they're both kind of movies from my childhood, and I kind of see them both in the same way, really, except I probably do like Van Helsing more. But they're both kind of campy. They're both kind of over the top with with what is done in the film. But something about them, I just really enjoyed them when I was younger, and it's been interesting to go back and watch them now. Like even make my girlfriend watch them with me, I guess. I recently did find The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen on Blu-ray. It was only $5. And you could say like these could be like guilty pleasure movies that's along with Hugh Jackman's Van Helsing. But it's always kind of weird for me to say something's a guilty pleasure, because like I honestly think if you like something and enjoy something, you shouldn't like have to say you feel guilty about it. I don't know, but anyway, the story follows this guy named M, and he recruits like these very special people in the world to stop this worldwide threat. Or so it would seem. Spoilers, spoiler warning, M turns out to be, this phantom, this guy behind it all, and him recruiting this team is part of his whole setup. He has Dorian Gray in on it and everything like that. And thus the team kind of has to defend for themselves and try and stop what he has going on. So yeah, it's a pretty simple premise. It is based off of graphic novels. I have not read any of them, but I kind of want to. So I'm gonna look up I'm gonna look up some of them sometime, just to see if I am as interested in reading them as I think. Got my dog here. I think she wants to be let out, so give me a second, guys. Anyway, sorry about that. But before I get into more of my specific thoughts and feelings on the movie, this is a movie that was pretty, universally panned. It wasn't received very well critically, and it didn't really make a killing at the box office. So unfortunately, the planned sequel was canceled. And there's also some issues on set apparently as well. I don't know the full details of it. But this was also Sean Connery's last movie, and I guess he had some issues on set with I forget if it was one of the effects guys or just someone else behind the scenes he had issues with. So it didn't make him too enthused to work on the movie throughout. So I don't like either way. Like I said, I don't know what happened on set, but either way, I don't think this is a bad movie. I think it's actually an enjoyable time. It's fairly entertaining, I guess, for what they were trying to do. I think there's far worse movies out there, and the fact that this one is one of them that didn't get a sequel does feel odd to me. I think there is I would have liked to have seen another chapter with this cast or something like that. And I mentioned Shane West earlier. He plays Tom Sawyer in this movie. And one of the better things about this movie is, the father-son dynamic between him and Sean Connery's character, Alan Quartermain. Alan Quartermain, in this version anyway, had lost his son, so he kind of sees Tom Sawyer, Shane West's character, as like another chance to sort of teach him correctly and everything. So I do like that bit of it. I wish there's actually more scenes focused on that in the movie. But I like that, and Shane West, I like him a lot as an actor, and it's funny, I seen him in this all these years ago, and now I see him in all these shows, like Nikita and Salem, different things like that. So he's come a long way acting-wise, but I think he's still pretty likable in this anyway. And then Tony Curran, he plays the Invisible Man in the movie. I've seen him in a lot of things lately. He was also in Underworld Evolution as Marcus, and he was recently in Marvel's Daredevil. He's the Irish mob boss trying to interrogate the Punisher. So yeah, I forgot he was actually an Invisible Man in this, but that's cool too. But yeah, Sean Connery, he's also pretty good in this. He kind of brings that usual charm to the role, and it was unfortunate this was his last film. He did do a couple voiceover, some voiceover work after this, but this is his last physical, acting role. And I thought he was fine in this too. If I had to pick a favorite James Bond, my favorite is probably Sean Connery. Just because I think he sort of helped create that original, sort of personality that the character has. But I'm not a big James Bond fan either. I think there's more interesting spy type characters out there, but I do think Sean Connery kind of helped elevate or emphasize what the character, what originally drew people to the character. And he's good in this too. He kind of has that old, man wisdom going on, I guess, if you want to say that in this. He's also a great shot with a gun. Like I said, he has a, sort of a tragic past with his son that they briefly touch on. I also do like Mr. Hyde or Dr. Jekyll in this movie. They picked a somewhat unknown actor to play him. I know they're going with one of the Harry Potter villains originally, but that didn't work out. I don't want to say this guy's unknown either. I guess I should say I haven't seen much of his work, but I kind of want to actually, because I think just Jason Fleming here, who played Dr. Jekyll, it's one of my favorite parts of the movie now actually. Just his look and just the way he played the two sides of himself in this movie. They didn't really focus on it too much, but I thought it was actually pretty interesting psychologically and with him battling with his psyche. And I even liked the development of the Mr. Hyde side of himself, who ended up deciding to help after all. Whether that was because Dr. Jekyll got more control over him, or Mr. Hyde actually changed his feelings on things, I don't know. But I wish they would have dove more into his psyche, and maybe they would have if there had been another sequel or two. But I thought he was great as this, semi-creepy but yet good-hearted doctor in this version anyway. I think he had the perfect look for it, and the way he sort of delivered his lines I thought was on point. So yeah, I actually liked him a lot in this one. I like Shane West, and then Richard Roxburgh. He plays the main villain, the Phantom, in this. M. And it's ironic because I was comparing this movie to Van Helsing, and he played Dracula in that. And then he's also the main villain in this, which worked out. I think he's a fine enough actor. His work as Dracula was kind of, overboard in that one, but I thought it was good for this really traditional, old school type of Dracula actually, and I thought he was fine in this. I will say that his villain though, and the motivations and sort of the reasoning for everything happening was kind of just there wasn't much to it really. And then, there is CGI in this, Mr. Hyde, Mr. Hyde form actually looks pretty good. Most of the time it looks like they use a mix for him, and it looks like he's actually there with the other characters most of the time. But then towards the end there's this henchman that ends up drinking a lot of Dr. Jekyll's potion, turning into this really overdone, big pink muscular thing, like a tank from Left 4 Dead times 2 or 4. And that's just some of the CG is a little bit off in this one, but again it's 2003 CGI, so it's not fully their fault. They probably used what they could at the time, because it did have a $78 million budget too, so that's not a small budget. So then I have this whole kind of thing about Africa not letting Alan Quatermain die, and so when he is actually stabbed, and he actually slowly does die at the end, and again, his father-son dynamic with Tom Sawyer. Tom Sawyer ends up being able to shoot him just before he escapes, from quite a distance away. Finally getting what Quartermain is teaching him with how to fire a shot and everything. But then we see this at the end where they're all at his grave, and the shaman comes along, and we see this weather changing and the grave shaking, and then it goes to credits. So yeah, they probably were planning on Sean Connery being in the sequel. I'm not sure if he was gonna, though. But either way, it was his last movie, and the movie didn't do well enough, unfortunately. But again, I would like to see it. And then he had Peter Wilson as Mina Harker, of course tied to the Dracula and vampire stories. So for me, it's kind of cool to see a character like that in this one too. She's actually a vampire in this version, so you get some moments with her like that. And I actually like the effects on her face when she goes into full vampire mode, especially on the rooftops. You see some very brief shots of her as she's going after all the snipers, basically. I would like to have seen more of that. And the guy who played Dorian Gray was okay. And then she briefly does talk about Dracula. So I wonder if they're actually going to bring him back somehow in one of the sequels. I think that would have been cool. So yeah, overall, I actually do think League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is a good time. Yeah, sure, there are things that don't work quite as well for me compared to when I was a little kid. I do notice some things a little bit more. And again, it's been 14 years now since the movie came out, but I don't know. I still think it's a good time. My girlfriend didn't like it too much. She thought it was okay. She gave it like a C-. Nothing really grabbed her attention, and that's her, I guess. I think it works better if you've seen it earlier on instead of just watching it like it's a new movie now. So that's probably why I still kind of hold it in slightly higher regard. But I do recognize some of the movies, kind of cliches, or there is some blandness here and there, like I said, with the villain's motivations, and they could have gone deeper into some of the characters, I think, but I actually think it was a good start. I would like to have seen a sequel or two, have it made into a trilogy. I don't know, I thought it was enjoyable. If I had to rate it, I'd rate it, I'm giving it a C+ right now. I almost did want to give it like a B-, but like I said, I do recognize some of the film's flaws. But I still think it's a good time, and I think I definitely don't think it should be like one of like this critically lashed movies either. But let me know what you guys thought about it, if you've seen it, if you really think it's that bad. But yeah, so follow me on Facebook, Twitter, like, subscribe. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.